County 911.
Hi. I have a young lady at my house right now, and she says her name is Jamie Kloss.
Okay, what's your address?
14. It's in Gordon, Wisconsin.
Okay, have you seen her photo, ma'am?
Yes, it is her. I 100% think it is her.
Are you okay?
100%.
Does it look like she's going to run?
No, she's sitting down. She's relaxing.
Okay, hang on just a second.
On October 15th, 2018, Jake Patterson committed a heinous crime that would forever shatter lives and irrevocably alter the life of a 13-year-old girl. One fateful day in early October, while on his way to work at Caputo Cheese Factory near Almena, Wisconsin, Patterson first laid eyes on Jamie Kloss, a young girl of 13. It happened as he stopped behind a school bus on U.S. Highway 8, during one of the 2 mornings he worked at the cheese plant. It was then that he witnessed Jamie boarding the school bus near her home. Patterson claimed to have no prior knowledge of Jamie or anyone else residing in her household. However, the moment he saw her, he made the chilling decision to abduct her. Without wasting any time, Patterson headed straight to Walmart in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, where he purchased various items necessary for the kidnapping, including a black balaclava mask to conceal his identity. On the night of the abduction, Patterson carried his father's 12-gauge Mossberg pump shotgun with him. He later revealed to investigators that he had chosen this particular firearm after conducting extensive research, as he believed it to be one of the most commonly owned or manufactured shotguns, making it harder to trace. Patterson believed that a 12-gauge slug would inflict the most devastating damage on his victim, making it the ideal choice of ammunition and weapon for his sinister intentions. Furthermore, he disclosed to detectives that he had shaved his head and face and thoroughly bathed before leaving his residence, in order to avoid leaving behind any DNA or hair at the crime scene. Patterson even meticulously selected his attire for that night, wearing brown steel-toed work boots, blue trousers, a black jacket, work gloves, and the black balaclava mask. As Jamie peacefully slept in her bedroom, her dog Molly's barking abruptly awakened her. Sensing something amiss, she noticed the car outside and immediately rushed to wake her parents. James, her father, aged 56, made his way towards the front door. Patterson, cloaked in darkness, arrived at the Kloss residence and silently turned off the car, allowing it to roll noiselessly into the driveway. He parked his car inconspicuously, got out, and headed towards the red brick entrance stairs, where he saw Jamie's father, James Kloss, standing by a large window signaling outside. Patterson proceeded to knock on the front door of their house and shout at her father for not opening it. Jamie and her mother barricaded themselves in the bathroom and hid in the bathtub. Patterson claimed that James Kloss mistook him for a law enforcement officer when he demanded to see his badge. Patterson then fired the shotgun through a small glass window where James Kloss was looking through. The shotgun blast hit James Kloss, resulting in his death. He then aimed the shotgun at the doorknob and shot his way inside. Jamie heard a gunshot and realized her father had been killed. Jamie's mother, Denise, called 911, but before she could speak with the dispatcher, Patterson broke through the bathroom door.
Sharon County 911, where is your husband?
Somebody at one farm. Hello?
Hello?
Patterson searched the house for Jamie and broke down the bathroom door when he found it locked and blocked from the inside. He ripped off the bathroom door and saw Jamie and her mother huddled in the bathtub. Denise embraced Jamie in a bear hug. Patterson instructed Jamie's mother to tape Jamie's mouth shut, which she did. Patterson mentioned that when Denise Kloss attempted to tape her daughter's mouth, He put down his shotgun, took the roll of Black Gorilla brand duct tape from her, and finished the task himself, wrapping the tape securely around Jamie's mouth and head. He then tied Jamie's wrists and ankles together. Patterson then allegedly picked up the shotgun, aimed it at Denise Kloss's head, and pulled the trigger. He aimed for Denise's head, knowing that shots to the head were the most effective way to kill someone. He then dragged Jamie out of the house and across the yard, put her in the trunk of his car, and drove off, passing police cars with their sirens blaring. He spent approximately 4 minutes at the Kloss residence. During a 3-month search in northern Wisconsin, the police and volunteers tirelessly looked for her. Detectives diligently followed up on thousands of tips, while the FBI offered a $25,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. Additionally, her parents' employer contributed another $25,000 towards the cause. Posters featuring Jamie's image were circulated, raising awareness about her disappearance. The funeral of her parents drew a large crowd of strangers, showing support during a difficult time. In a heartwarming display of unity, neighbors came together to celebrate her at various festivities. Relatives made a heartfelt public appeal for any information regarding her whereabouts. When Patterson arrived at his Gordon home, he took Jamie to his bedroom and removed the tape from her. Patterson noticed Jamie's fear as she had urinated and her clothes were damp. He then instructed her to undress and put her belongings in a bag. Patterson provided Jamie with his sister's pajamas to change into, while he burned her clothes, the duct tape, and the gloves he had been wearing in the basement fireplace. Placing Jamie in a concealed space beneath his twin-size bed, approximately 2.5 feet above the ground, Patterson took precautions to prevent her from escaping by surrounding the bed with plastic totes, barbells, and free weights whenever he left the house. On 2 occasions when Patterson suspected Jamie of attempting to escape, he reacted by striking a wall and yelling excessively, instilling fear in her and dissuading any further escape attempts. Whenever friends or family, including his father, visited, Patterson forced Jamie to hide beneath the bed, threatening her with severe consequences. He subjected her to up to 12 hours without food, water, or bathroom breaks, keeping her confined beneath the bed. In one instance, he forcefully struck her back with a device used to clean window blinds when she tried to leave her hiding place. Patterson warned her that any future attempts would result in even harsher consequences. Patterson left Jamie alone in the house and hid her beneath the bed for a duration of 12 hours during the Christmas season, while he paid a visit to his grandparents. Throughout the time he held her captive for 88 days, he closely followed news reports about Jamie's abduction and the ongoing search for her. Despite the relentless efforts of the authorities in their search, they made it clear that they would not compromise Jamie's safety for the sake of public knowledge about the case. Patterson, believing he had successfully evaded capture, only discovered the identities of Jamie's parents, whom he had murdered, after seeing their names mentioned on various news programs and social media platforms. According to Jamie's account, when Patterson left the house, he informed her that he would be absent for approximately 5 or 6 hours. Seizing the opportunity, she managed to push aside the containers and weights that had been placed near the bed and made her escape. After Patterson's departure, she quickly put on a pair of worn-out men's sneakers and fled. She approached a neighbor named Jeanne Nutter, who was out walking her dog, and introduced herself as Jamie Kloss, explaining that she needed assistance.
It was just amazing that I was there at the time she needed somebody. All I could say to myself is be calm, keep her calm. She just said, "I'm lost, I don't know where I am." She said, "I don't know where I am" a couple of times.
Nutter guided Jamie to the neighboring home of Peter and Kristen Kacinskas, where they immediately dialed 911.
Then I heard the neighbor knocking on our door, and she opened the door, and the dog came in. And then right after the dog came in, she came in with Jamie and said, "This is Jamie Kloss, call 911." I mean, it blew my mind.
The police swiftly apprehended Patterson as he was driving through the neighborhood. He confessed to abducting Jamie and murdering her parents. Furthermore, he revealed to the authorities that he had meticulously planned the kidnapping after spotting Jamie boarding a bus one morning, despite never having met her before. Jake Thomas Patterson, who pleaded guilty to 2 counts of intentional homicide and 1 count of kidnapping, was sentenced to life imprisonment in May. Jamie delivered a statement expressing, "He robbed me of my parents. He took away almost everything I held dear. For 88 days he attempted to take me, without regard for the harm he caused or the lives he ended. He should remain incarcerated indefinitely. He cannot strip me of my freedom. He believed he could possess me, but he was mistaken. I outsmarted him. I observed his routine and I reclaimed my freedom. I will always possess my freedom while he will not. He could never diminish my courage. He thought he could manipulate me, but he failed. I believe his actions were typical of a coward, while I displayed bravery. He, on the other hand, did not." These individuals are Katya, who is 14 years old, and Lena, who is 17 years old. They spent a total of 4 years in an underground bunker, enduring unimaginable suffering at the hands of Viktor Mokov. The discovery of a hidden bunker in western Russia left the police in shock. Inside, they found 2 young girls who had been confined underground for an extended period of time. The girls appeared utterly exhausted and aged beyond their years. To make matters worse, one of them was 8 months pregnant. Their physical condition was severely deteriorated due to the lack of sunlight and proper nutrition in the cramped bunker. Additionally, they were subjected to daily abuse by a man who used their bodies for his own pleasure. The torment they endured was nothing short of a living nightmare. When the girls were finally rescued from the bunker, it took them a while to comprehend that they were finally free. Once they regained their senses, they bravely shared their harrowing story. Years later, Katya Martinova, one of the girls, wrote a book detailing the horrific experiences they endured in the bunker. The contents of her book are so disturbing that they have the power to shock even the most hardened individuals. This tragic tale began in September 2000, when 14-year-old Katya Martinova innocently attended her first disco. She was a young girl who still played with dolls and led a typical life, growing up in the small city of Ryazan in western Russia. Her family was content and prosperous, unaware of any troubles. This blissful ignorance made Katya vulnerable to the existence of evil individuals who could inflict pain and suffering upon her. Despite her young age, Katya, like many teenagers, yearned to appear more mature. Thus, she eagerly accepted her friend's invitation to the disco. Lena Samokina, who was 17 years old, happened to be her sister's closest friend. They had planned to attend the disco together, but since her sister was absent, Katya made the decision to go in her place. She refrained from disclosing her exact destination to her parents. Instead, she simply mentioned that she was going for a leisurely stroll. The young schoolgirl was filled with excitement as she attended her first ever adult disco. However, when 10 p.m. struck, it was time for the girls to return home. During that era, mobile phones were not yet prevalent, making it impossible for the girls to inform their parents of their whereabouts or request a ride. Consequently, they had no choice but to rely on public transportation to make their way home. Unfortunately, boarding the city trolley bus proved to be a challenge due to the throngs of people also attempting to return after the festivities. In that moment, a car pulled up beside the girls. Inside were 2 men who kindly offered them a ride home. 17-year-old Lena agreed, eager to reach home swiftly. Katya, following her lead, made the same decision. Little did they know that this impulsive act would lead to dire consequences for both girls. They entered the car and provided their address, unaware that they would not be making it home that evening. From that moment on, their lives would never be the same. The driver, an elderly man named Victor, remained mostly silent throughout the journey. Accompanying him was a young man named Losha, who introduced himself to the girls. The men suggested stopping by a store to purchase chocolates, engaging in light-hearted banter that did not raise any suspicions among the girls. The car came to a halt, and Losha entered the store to retrieve chocolates and a bottle of alcohol for the girls. They were offered a drink, to which they agreed. However, the 14-year-old Katya struggled after consuming alcohol for the first time, causing her to choke. Concerned for her well-being, she was given a bottle of water. The car resumed its journey, and it was at this moment that both Katya and Lena began to feel weak and fatigued. Suddenly, Victor announced that he needed to visit his sister. The girls, lacking the strength to resist, were unable to object. It was only later that they would come to realize that the men had drugged their drinks with sleeping pills, enabling them to carry out their sinister plan. The car arrived at a dubious location, where Losha escorted the semi-conscious Katya out of the vehicle and into a garage. Then Victor arrived at the location and demanded that she remove her clothing. The girl initially refused, but Victor resorted to threatening her with the release of his dogs. Under the influence of drugs, Katya was unable to resist and reluctantly agreed. In a grimy garage, Victor became her first sexual partner on a filthy mattress. Following this, he coerced her into entering the basement, where she discovered a cramped bunker. Initially, she believed that Victor would release her the next day, and had no idea that this bunker would become her home for the next 4 years. Meanwhile, her friend Lena was sleeping peacefully, unaware that the same fate awaited her. Lena woke up the next morning, disoriented from sleeping pills, only to be brought to the bunker by Victor to reunite with her friend. Lena attempted to dress Katya in order to escape this horrific place, but Victor locked them inside, disregarding their pleas for help. The maniac periodically visited, providing them with minimal sustenance and making empty promises of their eventual release. However, as the days turned into years, they realized they were trapped in this nightmarish situation. For 14-year-old Katya and 17-year-old Lena, their lives descended into a living hell. Victor would summon them individually to another small room adjacent to the main one, where he would commit heinous acts on a red cotton blanket. Initially, the girls resisted, refusing to succumb to his demands. In response, Victor would cut off their access to light and threaten to block the ventilation, leaving them feeling as though they were buried alive. On another occasion, he brandished a knife and struck Lena with a hose, causing her distress. Witnessing her friend's suffering, he then took Katya to the next room, where he satisfied his desires on a red blanket. The girls were too weak to fight back, having recovered from the effects of sleeping pills only to be weakened by malnutrition and lack of oxygen in the underground confinement. Victor provided them with meager amounts of food and water, and the bunker lacked basic amenities such as sewage and running water. The young women were forced to utilize a small bucket as a makeshift toilet, which quickly became filled with waste. Lena and Katya endured the foul stench until Victor arrived to dispose of it. The girls spent days devising an escape plan, contemplating attacking him with the limited resources in the bunker. Victor provided them with only a dull knife, a boiler, and an electric stove for cooking. Despite planning to strike him with a hot frying pan, they realized their physical weakness compared to the powerful man. Fearful of his threats to cut off ventilation or fill the bunker with concrete, they complied with his demands on the red blanket to receive food and water. Victor visited them sporadically, demanding their bodies as if they were his possessions. The girls initially expected the other man from the car to join Victor, but it was only him. Eventually, they discovered that the young man, Losha, who had given them chocolate, was actually a woman named Yelena, Victor's accomplice. As time passed, the girls grew weaker due to lack of proper hygiene and inadequate water for cleaning. Their bodies and hair remained sticky and dirty, despite occasional provisions of new bed linen and clothing from Victor. After spending several months confined in the bunker, the girls completely lost their will to resist and abandoned any thoughts of escape. They understood that their efforts were futile, and their sole focus became survival, complying with the maniac's every whim. Victor, if one could even call him kind, started providing them with more new items. On New Year's, he brought them a bag of chocolates and various household necessities, such as a comb, hygiene products, and kitchen utensils. He even brought them playing cards. Additionally, he gifted Lena an English learning book and Katya a sketchbook with crayons. These items provided the girls with at least some form of diversion. Lena began studying English, while Katya indulged in her talent for drawing, adorning the bunker's dark and gloomy walls with vibrant and cheerful pictures. This creative outlet helped her maintain a glimmer of hope. One day, Victor brought them a stack of newspapers, and it was through these that they first learned about him. His name was Victor Mokov. But who was he? At the time of his crime, Victor was a 50-year-old man. He was born and raised in the small town of Skopino in western Russia. For most of his life, Victor worked as a skilled mechanic at a factory, earning a reputation as one of the best workers in his field. In his younger years, he appeared to be a decent individual. However, he struggled with social awkwardness and deep insecurities, which hindered his relationships with women. He married in his youth, but his wife left him after only 3 months for reasons unknown. From then on, he never formed any meaningful connections with women. The only person he truly loved was his mother, with whom he lived in a village house for the majority of their lives. She was a domineering figure who suppressed him in every possible way. It is likely that this oppressive environment contributed to Victor's descent into madness. Desperate to find companionship, he resorted to committing unspeakable acts, constructing a secret bunker and imprisoning innocent victims within. He meticulously planned this horrifying scheme over the course of many years, spending 3 years digging the bunker beneath his garage in his yard. The hidden bunker was expertly disguised, making it nearly impossible to locate. Situated 20 feet below ground level, it was sealed shut with a sturdy concrete door, rendering any cries for help futile. Victor had outfitted the bunker with all the essentials for the captive's survival, including electricity and ventilation. Inside, there were 2 beds, a table, chairs, and dishes. Victor's first abduction occurred half a year prior to his assault on Lena and Katya, targeting another teenage girl who managed to escape without involving the authorities. As a result, the maniac became more cautious, reducing the chances of rescue for his subsequent victims. The initial months of captivity were harrowing for the girls, but their situation deteriorated further when 17-year-old Lena discovered she was pregnant. Despite Lena's pleas to be released, Victor refused, fearing legal consequences. Consequently, Lena endured childbirth in unsanitary conditions without medical assistance. Throughout her pregnancy, Victor continued to exploit her, showing no concern for her well-being. As the birth neared, he provided the girls with a textbook on gynecology and obstetrics, tasking 15-year-old Katya with assisting in the delivery using limited supplies. Against all odds, a healthy baby boy was born. However, Victor showed no interest in his son, focusing solely on his own desires. 2 weeks later, he demanded the child from the girls, but they refused, fearing for the baby's safety. The infant remained with them in the squalid bunker for nearly 2 months until one day they awoke to find him missing. It was revealed that Victor drugged their water with sleeping pills and abducted the child. Nevertheless, he ultimately saved the boy's life. The deranged man left the baby at the entrance of an apartment complex. Lena mourned the loss of her son, yet the infant brought a glimmer of hope in their confined space. She found solace in the fact that he was now free, exposed to daylight, and receiving proper nourishment. An underground bunker was no place for a baby. Subsequently, Lena became pregnant once more, and the cycle repeated itself. Katya assisted her friend in delivering the second baby boy. The child resided with them for 4 months before they decided to hand him over to Victor. The maniac abandoned the child in another residential building. Both boys eventually ended up in foster care, unaware of their true parentage. Perhaps it was for the best. Imagine the shock of discovering that your father was a maniac and your mother was his captive. Fortunately, Katya was unable to conceive due to her young age when she entered the bunker. In contrast, Lena, who was older, faced the burden of multiple pregnancies. After 2 births, she found herself pregnant for the 3rd time, a terrifying prospect. Exhausted and fearing for her life, Lena struggled through the ordeal. By this time, Victor was growing weary of his captives and sought a new victim. One day, he introduced a 3rd bed into the bunker and instructed the girls to set up a 2nd tier above one of the beds. Moreover, Victor's vigilance waned as he believed his 2 captives were completely subdued and would not dare to escape again. Consequently, he made the decision to escort Katya out of the bunker and bring her to the house for a shower. He then took her out once more and instructed her to assist in drugging the 3rd victim, a student who had moved into Victor's residence and rented a room. The maniac was convinced that she would be an ideal addition to his group of captives. The girls recognized this as their opportunity for freedom. When Victor brought Katya to meet the new girl, Katya had already managed to write a letter detailing their situation and pleading for help from the police. She discreetly placed the note among the girl's belongings. That day, Victor's plan to add a 3rd victim to his collection was thwarted. Katya returned to the bunker, leaving her and Lena to anxiously await the outcome. Would the girl discover their message? Would she seek help from the authorities? Their entire future hinged on it. They could hardly believe it when one day they heard unfamiliar voices. A stranger peered into the bunker and inquired, "Girls, are you alive?" Katya and Lena were overjoyed. After years of captivity, they finally saw sunlight. The police officers who rescued them were taken aback by the girls' extremely pale and emaciated appearance. Lena, who was 8 months pregnant, found herself unable to move. Viktor Mokov, the perpetrator, was apprehended and given a 17-year prison sentence. Surprisingly, he expressed disbelief upon hearing his punishment, claiming innocence by stating that he had provided for and cared for his captives. This deranged individual lacked any sense of guilt and firmly believed that his actions were justified. Meanwhile, his accomplice, Yelena, who disguised herself as a man to aid in luring girls into their trap, received a 5-year prison term. Viktor Mokov's mother, who resided with him during this time, maintained her ignorance regarding the presence of the captives in the bunker. However, one wonders if she truly had no suspicions, considering her son's frequent trips to the bunker with supplies. Although it is likely that she had some inkling of the truth, her guilt could not be proven, allowing her to remain free. As for the fate of the girls, after enduring 4 years of torment, Lena Samokina gave birth to her 3rd child, but what became of the child remains unknown. Some sources claim that the baby died, while others suggest that Lena abandoned the child. It is worth noting that Lena never attempted to reclaim the 2 boys she had given birth to while in captivity. Perhaps this decision was for the best, and it is not our place to pass judgment. Presently, one of these children is 20 years old, while the other is 22, and they likely have no knowledge of their true parentage. Surviving the years of horror with the maniac was an arduous task for Lena. She made the choice to bury the past and refuse to engage with the media. It is known that she pursued a career as an English teacher and opted not to have any more children. On the other hand, Katya Martinova, who found herself trapped in the bunker at the age of 14, managed to continue her education. She discovered the strength to move forward and even regained her trust in men. Katya has given birth to 2 children, a daughter and a son. Presently, she is happily married and willingly shares her tragic experience in interviews with journalists. Katya Martinova, the author of the book Confession of a Dungeon Prisoner, aims to provide moral support to women who have endured violence. She is an extraordinary woman who managed to survive the horrors she faced while still holding on to her belief in goodness. Despite enduring years of imprisonment, she has remained a compassionate individual. Today, she dedicates herself to assisting victims of violence. Although she may occasionally experience a negative mood, Reflecting on her time in the bunker reminds her that her current problems are insignificant. She encourages people to cherish life, freedom, and moments of happiness. Remarkably, despite enduring absolute hell, she did not succumb to despair and continued to live. I believe there is much to be learned from this remarkable woman. Katya is now 37 years old, while Lena is 40. They have attempted to forget their traumatic experience. However, they were forced to confront it once again when Viktor Mokov, their tormentor, was released from prison in 2021 after serving 17 years in prison. He even granted interviews to journalists. It is undeniable that he is a completely immoral individual who fails to comprehend his guilt. He has never expressed remorse for his actions. During the interviews, he even made jokes about wanting to engage with one of the girls again to assist her in giving birth. When looking into his shameless eyes, it is challenging to believe that he possesses any trace of humanity. Do you believe he deserves to be free?